So you're gonna let them in. Lori, you let them in. Byron, you kick it off now since we're getting close. Just
Perfect.
Admit all. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. We are approaching 11 a.m. We'll give everyone one more minute to load in and then we'll jump in. All right, I have us right at 11. So just a quick housekeeping note, if everyone could mute your lines as we go through the presentation. We will have some interaction throughout. We'll have some polls. We'll have an opportunity for you to use the chat feature. We will be monitoring that. But really excited about today's topic, how employee benefits are currently impacting how you attract and retain talent. By way of introduction, I am Byron Burst. I'm one of the consultants here with the Hill Group Mid-Atlantic region. And also my colleague Molly Jackson is on the line. Thanks so much, Molly, for your help always with organizing these each month. Really excited to jump into today's topic. We do these monthly virtually, but in 2022, we hope to get back out live in person. So hopefully we'll be able to meet some of you in person in the next few months. So keep a lookout for invitations to some of those as those come up. Before jumping into today's topic, I wanted to give you a quick little background, a little overview over the company Hill Group Mid-Atlantic. So if you're familiar with Hill Group, you might know a little bit more about the employee benefits side, which is where I reside. But Hill Group offers an entire suite of insurance brokerage services around the full service, the full spectrum of an employer's needs. So lots to do with the business lines of insurance, also really strong in human resources support. So really able to supplement your in-house HR department, as well as support you around your 401k or retirement management needs. The way we really lean in on the employee benefit side, some of you again may have had some exposure to it, is really three areas, and we like to call them the 3 C's. So it's the cost containment, the compliance standpoint, and then also communications, which encompasses a lot of different things. So not just communications between us and you as the client, but also how we help you communicate the value of your benefits with your employees. And a lot of times that might leverage some technology. So we also help with the benefits administration part of the job. And again, a little bit more about who we are as a company. So Hill really has grown a lot over the past several years, but what we've been able to maintain is our local presence and that concierge and boutique level of service to our clients. So we've grown through a lot of acquisition, which has really allowed us to provide the big company resources with that local feel. So you'll still know your local reps, you'll still know your service and account management teams, because we're right here in the Northern Virginia, DC area. And we really look forward to getting back out in person to meet all of you. Again, just a little bit more about who we've become. So this really helps illustrate some of the growth trajectory Hill has been on. So number 7, fastest growing brokers last year from Business Insurance Magazine, ranked number 13, the largest P&C agencies from Insurance Journal this year. And for the past 7 years, and we'll make sure it's an 8th year also, fastest growing private companies in America. So again, really excited to get to today's topic. And we have the pleasure of having some of my colleagues present today. We have Dario Campolatero and Lorianne Gabriel.
Great. Well, thank you, Byron. I appreciate the introduction, and it's about your amazing organization, the Hill Group. Goes to you guys. But seriously, I appreciate being part of the call today and going over an important topic. We're hearing a lot of chatter, regionally, on a national level, even on a global level, about employee retention. So we're excited about talking about that. My role as Managing Director and Mid-Atlantic Employee Benefits Practice Leader here for the Mid-Atlantic market, and our footprint as an organization really covers the entire country. So we're really excited about that. And Lori, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Lorianne Gabriel. I'm an employee benefits producer, and I work with Dario, Byron, and Molly out of the Mid-Atlantic office, but I'm actually located in gorgeous Clearwater, Florida. So I'm sure you're all very jealous.
Yeah, not a bad place to be.
No, not at all. This is going to be a great presentation. Lots of interactive opportunities. We're going to have some polls. We're going to have some chat opportunities. So it's a nice small group. Feel free to chat any questions, and we'll keep this pretty informal and get to your questions. I'll turn it back over to Dario.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And just to follow up on that, we will distribute a copy of the presentation. Molly will have that, as well as a recording. I'm sure Molly will talk about our YouTube channel where we store all these wonderful webinars. So we'll make sure to distribute that. And as Lori mentioned, please feel free to ask questions, chat a question. Happy to cover anything. But as far as the content, we went through who we are. Current challenges, there's going to be some pretty obvious things on there, but we'll talk about that. Employee satisfaction, and really some articles and interesting trends that we're seeing, and that I'm sure many of you are hearing as well. And we'll pivot into basic benefit packages, maximizing your existing package. So a lot of people think of, if we have to work on employee retention and engagement, how much more is it going to cost us? And there's some tools within your own benefit suite and your own resources that you probably have now that are low cost or no cost. So we'll talk about that, talk about some enhancements and some Q&A at the end. So that's our goal for today. I think, Lori, is there something we're going to pop up right now? Or?
Yeah, why don't we kick it off with a poll?
Okay.
How important are benefits in keeping and attracting employees? Would you say they're less important prior to the pandemic, no changes prior to the pandemic, or more important prior to the pandemic? I'll give you guys a few seconds to respond.
Not a surprising trend of here. I thought there'd be a little bit of distribution. Holy.
Yeah. Okay. I have to say I agree. Well, we're at 100% in agreement, more important than ever prior to the pandemic.
Excellent. All right. Well, very interesting. So everybody who responded said they're more important than ever. So very interesting. Thank you for doing that, Lori. So we're going to go to our first slide here. And Lori and I did this presentation a few times, but most recently we did it for a national association across the country. And some of the things that came out of that discussion and that presentation were really the unprecedented times that we're in today. Some of these things, like I said, are obvious. We've been dealing with them for quite a while now. First-hand pandemic and the economic shutdown, unemployment rates. I think the next bullet point, it's rare that I talk to an employer, or when you talk to somebody, that they're not saying how hard it is to find employees to work. And that really goes from your kind of fast food type of industries all the way through. All businesses are being affected by this. So I think the slow to return rate is very interesting byproduct of what we've gone through. People retiring early. If they have a chance to exit out of the workforce, they've just decided to retire. Or in some instances, If they have some financial wherewithal, maybe they're checking out for a while. They're sitting on the sidelines for a couple years, maybe going back to school, maybe changing careers, or maybe just sitting out until things evolve again in the workplace. So I think that's a really interesting point. And then we can't not mention the huge factor of the social impacts that are happening in the United States and globally on diversity, equity, inclusion, really the public pressure, and even the public pressure within the workplace that are affecting work that has never had before. So again, all these convergences of really meaningful issues, some of them would be once in a lifetime issues, are all coming together at the same time. So we're really in some unprecedented times. I think, I've tried to pepper this. We've tried to pepper this with some quotes and some facts on articles, but benefits always seem to be a cornerstone of employee satisfaction and retention, and really offsetting long-term cost through investment in employee benefits. So, we're going to be touching on that as we go through today's presentation. So I think for anybody who's on the call that's in human resources or leadership, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on people in those roles, certainly with our clients that we work with. And some of these, again, we've been dealing with them. It's the pivoting to remote work, new policies on how to manage that, communications, management, accountability. One of the hugest issues right now is how do you manage remote workers and hold them accountable to the same standards that if they were into work. Staffing, recruiting, right sizing. We've had many clients that have had an opportunity, good or bad, to right size, right? They've had to scale back. And what it's allowed them is the affordability to be selective as they start restaffing their organization. But some of it is the luxury is that they've had to right size, and now they're trying to figure out how to get back into a growth mode. And then if you think over to the right, I think HR, maybe you guys probably experience this the most on the front lines, is burnout, right? We're seeing a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety on the employee population of, remote working, too many hours, not unplugging. And burnout seems to be a major concern. Mental well-being, mental health has become to the forefront. And it's not, it's clear that employees see that both within themselves, employers are seeing it, and employees are seeing it in their management. So again, this is being pushed forward to the forefront. What we've seen for the first time in the past 18 months or over this 18 months is a newfound real sincere engagement from employers to really try to drive mental well-being and overall mental health in their organizations, which hasn't existed so much in the past. And I would even expand that to overall wellness and employee engagement. So we'll talk more about that. So why do employees leave? This is a laundry list, and it's probably not complete, but I think it's a pretty accurate depiction of employees and why they resign or why they leave a company. And a scary term, I put it here just so I wouldn't forget it on the right. And some of you guys are seeing articles, I would imagine, I'm certainly seeing a lot of articles regarding the Great Resignation. And that's a scary term that we're hearing, that there's a lot of chatter about the Great Resignation and where we are as a nation, and maybe even on a global level, as far as employees choosing to opt out or leave jobs, right? The job market has become national, in some respects, even global, and where they work. So the businesses that were accustomed to hiring employees locally to come into their office, within 30 minutes or an hour every day has really blown up. And it's created a national or international workforce. So this concern about the Great Resignation is a key issue. And here you can see some really interesting, maybe not surprising reasons why people are leaving their jobs. And it's concerning for sure. I think we're seeing a lot with the work-life balance issues, the ability for employees to seek employment in a different part of the country or a warmer part of the country, or working in one part of the country, but supporting a business in another part of the country. So there's a lot of really interesting factors that are happening here with why people are choosing to leave. And you can see some of the stats over to the right that really are not that surprising. And I think we're probably accustomed to digesting some of this data at this point. But again, some of it is just how employees are feeling generally in their work. And what can we do as employers to try to prevent that? Because I think we can all agree losing an employee, the cost of replacement of that employee, I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but the costs are astronomical in trying to find candidate replacement, especially, and that's in a good market, meaning when there's employees to hire. Right now, trying to find talent makes it even that much more difficult. So, Lori, was there something we were going to do here at this point, or?
Yeah, Dario, I'd like to ask the group, if they're currently doing exit interviews. And as a follow-up, are there any reasons that we haven't listed that they're hearing during the course of doing those exit interviews that may be surprising to the group? We'll just give it a few seconds.
Yeah. Well, again, not surprising. Well, maybe a little bit surprising.
Yeah, it looks like everyone on the call is doing exit interviews, which is wonderful. If you have anything to add in terms of what you're finding, please share it in the chat.
And what were the results? I'm not sure. Are we sharing the results there, Lori?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. You're conducting exit interviews.
Yeah, that is interesting. I believe this list is pretty concise in why people are leaving, but we certainly welcome anybody's input on if they're seeing something different. Employees leaving their employment right now. Certainly be interesting to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Here is, we start pivoting to attracting and retaining talent. And this top section of this, I don't know, maybe it's 20 bullet points are kind of some obvious and maybe not so obvious initiatives to help retain talent. And some of the statistics that we're seeing is employees want a clear path of growth, professional development within their organizations, and more so than maybe in the past. I think this trend is probably continued from kind of the millennial generation that want continued forward motion in their career, and they don't want to be put into a position where they continue to do that same job for many, many years. That many of us came up that way. I think now more than ever, people want to see career transparency and are looking for clear growth opportunities within that organization. And you can see still we moved to 73% of companies in the survey are hiring. So that's something you'd have to reflect on within your own organization. But we're seeing that with our clients, that many employers and clients of ours are hiring. And the hybrid workplace is, I think it's here to stay. And again, that's my opinion. But I think for most businesses that can have employees working from home, it will be very difficult to have 100% back in office environment anytime soon, and maybe never. I think a lot of employers that we talk to and a lot of the data out there supports that, kind of how it was may never be again, at least not for a long time. And then I think that last bullet point there, roughly 1 to 2 employees are considering changing careers right now. Very concerning there. As an employer, keeping talent, attracting talent is always key. If you look at these bullet points, again, I don't think there's anything that jumps off of there that's too surprising. Compensation, everybody always tries to talk about compensation as far as a key driver in employee retention. I think obviously you got to be paying people properly, but there's a lot of other soft benefits here that can make a really important factor in retaining talent. Training and development, recognition and rewards programs, work-life balance, emphasis on teamwork. I think that's a challenge right now in this Zoom environment of having collaboration and teamwork effectively. I read a stat recently about the amount of team meetings or meetings that occur is like up 50% prior to the pandemic. So this tendency to schedule a meeting versus maybe that could have been resolved in an email or a phone conversation might be something interesting. And then one-on-one meetings has gone up even higher in the amount of time people are spending in those meetings. And I don't know what it is. I catch myself in this situation too, where sometimes it's easier just to set up a Zoom meeting. Not everybody wants a Zoom meeting, and there's a certain amount of fatigue that comes with Zoom. I think we can all agree on that. So, again, some interesting factors here in considering attracting and retaining talent. Most importantly, many of these don't necessarily require a big investment on a business. Some of them do, but not all of them. If we talk about what you can do, this goes back to some of the low-cost options of trying to keep and retain talent. And what we are spending time on and working with clients on is employee education. You can't get away from that. And I think now more than ever is trying to remind employees of the benefits that they have, really trying to maximize your existing benefit package as an employer and doing education. Oftentimes, most employers think of that as an open enrollment period of time to discuss it. But the reality is, from our vantage point working with employees, open enrollment is usually about employees, what's changing and how much is it going to cost me? So they're not really absorbing a lot of the benefits or the secondary or tertiary benefits that might be available to them during those open enrollment meetings. So sometimes we're recommending even a mid-year meeting or even a quarterly session, a lunch and learn, which we can talk about more in a minute. Tapping into employee assistance programs, most, if you have long-term disability, generally speaking, you should have a baked in employee assistance program that you can take advantage of. Carrier programs. My experience, I've been in this business a long time, probably 30 years, and the carriers' quiver of solutions and services and support that they provide through their website, which is generally going to be digital, but not always, is amazing. If it's wellness, mental well-being, disease management, fitness, smoking cessation, carriers have a tremendous amount of resources, and they've spent a tremendous amount of money in expanding those offerings. And it's just a matter of taking advantage of that with your current carriers and making sure that you're aware of what's available and pushing it out to your employee population. And I'll buzz through these next one kind of quickly, but the employee survey, we've talked a lot of times with our clients about employee surveys. And my rule of thumb with an employee survey is never survey an employee about something that you're not prepared to change. So, there's a general assumption that if you do an employee survey, there's an expectation on their part that there will be changes, and usually to their benefit. So again, I think employee surveys can be a huge benefit to clients and to the employee population. It's about how you structure it and what you ask, and maybe more importantly, what you're trying to achieve and what kind of investment you're looking to make when you do that survey. And then the last few, total compensation statements. A great way for employee retention is really giving that employee a total picture of their compensation package. If it's working from home, if it's PTO, if it's additional training, 401k contributions, and a variety of other things that employer might do. That total compensation statement is a great way to differentiate your offerings and ensuring that you're keeping your employees knowledgeable of what they have, and more importantly, that they're educated on, if they are looking out the window at another job, that they have a clear understanding of the value they're getting through their current job and through their current employer. And the last couple are payroll providers have an extensive tool. We have exclusive arrangements with ADP and Paylocity and a few others. Again, payroll providers, similar to the medical carriers and the disability carriers, have expanded their offerings of how they can support clients. It's a matter of kind of navigating all those solutions and putting pressure on the providers to deliver some ways on how they might help you achieve your goals and deal with any issues. So again, payroll providers can be an important process. And then us, your insurance consultant, that really could be one of your first points of conduct, your conduit to tapping into any of these resources and enhanced resources. So your insurance consultant is a key component in this relationship to making it work. But this last bullet point on the left here, the company culture based on caring for employees as a whole is the most important driver of loyalty, performance, and results. The impact is exponential, linked to 56% increase in performance and 75% reduction in sick days. So, you know, I remember, and we'll talk about it briefly in a second about wellness, that, you know, wellness is not necessarily about getting employees healthy only. It's about employee engagement. It's about presenteeism, reducing absenteeism. So, you know, all these things combined have a major factor in that. But I think that the key word there is loyalty and trying to retain talent, which is the objective of today's webinar, is trying to find solutions to retain talent. And most of the things on this page don't cost you anything as an employer. It's really just maximizing the resources that you have. Did we have another poll, Lori? I can't remember. Or is that further?
Certainly, yeah, we can launch this. We're going to start talking about the benefits that you're currently offering. In addition to the standard offerings of medical, dental, vision, life insurance, are you offering any worksite or voluntary benefits at this time?
Okay, so we have 4 answers here. Some basic voluntary options, none. Really enhanced, which would be, you know, kind of the full suite, and then obviously premium. You know, we were just on a webinar. We have a sister company as Rampart, where we offer really guaranteed issue supplemental individual disability insurance, guaranteed issue life insurance that can be carve outs. Again, it's a way of doing what I would call that is more of an executive voluntary benefit suite. So again, there's other ways you can do these enhancements. Then you start talking about budget dollars and how that's going to fit into your overall organization of if you have the budget dollars to spend on these enhanced products. Thanks, Lori.
It looks like the participants are offering life, disability, critical illness, and accidents. So certainly offering an enhanced benefit package right now. May want to consider adding some of the additional programs that we're starting to see get some traction in the market, like identity theft, hospital indemnity plans, group legal, pet insurance. These are all gaining traction in the market, with most employers looking to add these benefits on by 2022. And in the future, 2024, we're seeing a trend of offering financial planning, employee financial well-being, tuition reimbursement, and some backup childcare and even elder care. Those are benefits that are on the horizon that we think will be more mainstream come 2021.
That's really fascinating. It's really the worksite benefits definition has evolved a bit over the years, hasn't it? It looks like it's going to continue to evolve, Lori.
Certainly.
So again, this is just, you know, one of the steps in kind of employee retention when it comes to benefits is looking at your existing benefit package. Again, these 4 boxes just indicate the basics, right? Which most employers are going to have these services. You know, it's re-evaluating your existing carriers and the partnerships that you have with them, and understanding what kind of expanded services or enhanced services those providers may be able to provide you as a client. But over here on the right, you see that 61% of people are willing to accept a lower salary if a company has offered a great benefits package. You know, I'd be interested in hearing from HR professionals on their opinion on that. How I would reconcile this in our conversations with clients is most employees are willing to pay a little bit more through payroll contributions to have either retain or have an enhanced benefit package. So it's kind of saying the same thing that this is. I don't know if people would want to be paid less, but increased employee contributions is the same as a lower salary. So in the way I rationalize this, I think this does make sense, and I think it is consistent with what we're seeing. But, you know, again, employee benefits, if we go back to the original poll, I think 100% of respondents said that people's need for employee benefits as a retention tool is only higher than it was prior to the pandemic. This kind of supports that. And then you need to start thinking to yourself is, what have you done or what can be done as an organization to make those changes? So interesting points here. We're gonna go to the next slide here. Some enhancements, and Lori talked a little bit about it, but these are kind of the basics that we've always talked about for a while. Wellness and engagement programs, and we'll have some details here in a second. Voluntary benefits or worksite benefits, executive benefits, that would be like your supplemental disability or supplemental life products, supplemental long-term care products. We've got some clients that have very robust long-term care benefits for their executives or enhanced disability benefits for their executive team, which are really, go a long way in retaining that talent. And then I talked about it early in this presentation about on-site and virtual seminars. Byron talked about us having these lunch events. Now it's been a couple of years since we've done them. And, we'd like to get back to doing them in person, these webinars. But the same thing happens in our client groups. Historically, we do a lot of on-site events. We've pivoted to doing a lot of virtual events if it's obviously open enrollment, but there's no reason that we can't tap into some lunch and learn programs if it's basic benefit education to more specific things. If it's, we've done things like Medicare training sessions for employees, just knowledge of Medicare, or if it's smoking cessation or stress management, things like seated massage, or, how to tap into your virtual medical services. So again, there's a lot of creativity that can be put behind this that, again, doesn't cost you a lot of money from the standpoint of budgetary dollars, but it does have some level of commitment either from leadership or some internal champions to execute some of these items. But for us, we want to be looked at as your partner to help kind of execute these plans. So again, here are some ideas for you to think about. If we go through this slide, again, these go into more enhanced capabilities. Some of these have budgetary dollars that need to be applied to it. Some of them don't. Again, we've already talked a little bit about it, but a little bit of these, but it could be focus groups. We have tools that are like onboarding and decision-making tools to help employees make decisions on their benefits. And the interesting thing about that, we just rolled one out for Hill Group, is it's scary the amount of data that can be pulled into these decision-making tools where they pull in personal information that's public in the marketplace about your financial situation, and then you can link your different accounts to help you make better decisions on what you should be doing as far as your medical insurance, HSAs, 401k contributions, savings, vision, dental, life insurance. The decision-making tools that are out there are really, really pretty impressive. So again, those are some capabilities. And then simple things on here that we provide our clients, but again, you probably have seen them before, is things like an employee benefit guide or total compensation statements. So there's a variety of different services that can be done and offered to help with retaining employees. And this one's under the caveat of communication, which is really key. And then as we start wrapping up on the presentation today, this is on wellness and engagement. These bullets or these different boxes give you different ideas of what we've done with our clients. Things like biometric screening in the past and pre-March of 2020, I would say, having big health fairs on site with biometric screenings and other capabilities was not that uncommon. Now it's a little hard to get your head around having a big health fair, but maybe in 2022, we're getting to a point where we can start doing those things again. On-site flu shots, we've done that for a client. We were at a client open enrollment just a couple of weeks ago. They were doing on-site flu and on-site vaccine, which is really innovative. And the other thing that's not on here that we're starting to see, especially with the new mandates coming from Washington, is vaccine tracking. So again, there's tools out there that can help with vaccine tracking. So that's going to be another issue if you're in the space of government contractor or an employer over 100 employees, that you may have to start thinking about how you're going to manage that. Wellness seminars, wellness strategies. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Anything that we have here, Lori, that we should touch on?
Yes, let's just ask the group if they're currently offering employee wellness and engagement benefits. And also in the chat, if there's anything that you're currently doing that may be unique or interesting to share with others, that would be wonderful. Just put it in the chat.
Okay, this is a more diverse response on this one.
Yeah, it looks like it's a mixed bag. Some are not offering a wellness program, some are doing the basics, and some have a very robust offering. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to share some details about what you might be doing. That would be great. Otherwise, just throw it in the chat and we can talk about it.
Yeah, so it's an interesting trend. 40% are offering a robust offering, but that means 60% are basic to none. So very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any at this time, but I'll let you know.
All right, thanks. So to go through a summary of today's presentation, I don't know if this is a particular order when we put it together, but I think first is, develop a strategy. Actually, it is in order pretty much, but develop a strategy, know where you're trying to get to. One of the things I can tell you in working with a lot of our clients, and if some of them are on the call today, is there can be more good ideas than there's time or bandwidth to execute against. So having a strategy that is a multi-year strategy is really key. You got to kind of crawl before you can run. So, sometimes when people think of an employee wellness or engagement strategy, say, we're going to support our employees for a 5K run. That's one leg of a stool, but it's certainly not going to support a whole wellness initiative for an organization. So developing a strategy, and that's really our job to work with you to help you develop that multi-year strategy. I think that the second one probably maybe should be the first one, but it's certainly an important one, is know your numbers and set a budget. What are you trying to accomplish? What's it going to cost you? And the one that I didn't put on here, that's what's at the bottom, is leadership buy-in. You got to have leadership buy-in and HR support, because we know, and many of you on the call know, that ultimately the person who's going to be executing this is coming from the HR department. So you have to have the right champions in the room that are willing and able to execute against a strategy. But equally important is you have to have leadership buy-in and some budgetary dollars. Now, what I will say is, with budgetary dollars, you don't have to spend a fortune. A lot of times with our clients, we are able to leverage a relationship with insurance carriers to provide some wellness dollars to support them. But there has to be a commitment. And that commitment isn't a one and done initiative. It's really a long-term strategy and having some stick-to-itiveness. And the one thing that I would say about that is it has to fit in your culture. We have many businesses who talk about wellness, but it really doesn't fit into their company culture, not because we don't want it to fit, but I think there's some self-realization that, the response isn't there from their employee population, that it may not get the traction that they desire. And it can be a lot of energy spent to not get the response that they're looking to get. That might be businesses that have a lot of clients, employees on client sites, or everybody's working remotely. There's some ways to work around that in the new world for wellness and engagement. But again, you have to know your company culture and what you're trying to achieve. And then the last couple ones, surveying your team. We talked a little bit about that. Don't ask anything that you don't want the answer to or aren't prepared to create some change on. Communication, execute, and follow up. And one thing, I think it's a management 101, but I think it's an important one, is kind of measure what you accomplish and then share the results of that outcome. And that can then continue to perpetuate success with your wellness program and your engagement program. So with that, Byron, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And certainly Lori and I are here to answer any questions or have any discussion.
Yeah, appreciate both you and Lori, Dario, for today's presentation. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to either drop it in the chat or unmute your lines and hop in. To piggyback off what you had just mentioned from a wellness and well-being standpoint, Dario, I think a lot of times a barrier a lot of employers see is, bandwidth and then also budget. How much is it going to take from us from a time perspective and then a monetary perspective to get this thing up and running? And then once we do, how do we measure it and make sure we're actually getting the ROI on it? So to that point, I did want to mention that a lot of carriers are very aware of the impact that wellness can have on an organization. So they actually do have some resources in place that maybe we can connect clients to help start a wellness program. So it's not just on the employer or HR to do all that heavy lifting. Carriers actually do have some resources in place that you can potentially take advantage of. The other thing, the stat around how important employee benefits are today versus how important they've been in the past was a little bit alarming for I think the stat was 61% of employees would be willing to look at another job for better benefits. I think we've felt that, but I think that number is a little jarring, and I think it just underscores the importance of how well employers communicate what they are actually offering to their employees, and also making it really easy for their employees to take advantage of those benefits that are in place. And again, it can be as simple as presenting a total compensation statement or an employee benefit guide. But in a lot of the conversations I'm having with employers, these are things that they're just not doing at the moment.
Yeah, Byron, I think you make some interesting points on ROI. When I started talking about wellness, we just called it wellness, probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago, and did some presentations for SHRM and other organizations on wellness. And the stat back then was for every dollar you put in, you got $3 return, ROI. And I think you used a word that's really a tricky one, is quantifying it. And it is difficult at times to quantify job satisfaction or morale or presenteeism. But I think in this day and age, the word wellness is synonymous with employee engagement. Mm-hmm. And, I think there's a better way of getting a pulse on the ROI on that. And that, I guess ultimately will be job retention and employee retention, I think, the one key factor. So really some good points there.
Yeah, I think it's an evolving topic, and we'll keep the conversation going as everything continues to evolve with the rest of the world. So again, appreciate both you and Lori for today's presentation. I don't see any comments in the chat, so I will thank everyone for joining us today. We look forward to getting together again next month. If you ever have any questions or want to talk about any of these topics or anything else that comes up, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Molly. We're always happy to set up some time to chat about those topics. And also just to continue getting to know you all better, I'll make it a personal point over the next couple weeks to make sure I reach out and introduce myself to anyone I haven't met with in the past. So again, thanks for joining us today. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.